Canada's premiers are set to gather in Ontario for a summer meeting that's expected to focus on issues linked to U.S. tariffs. Trade negotiations, the direct impact on industries like steel and aluminum, and the increased push to remove interprovincial trade barriers will likely be discussed in Ontario's cottage country. Other top priorities include pipelines and mining in the province's Ring of Fire region. Day one of the meeting will involve discussions with Indigenous leaders, including the Assembly of First Nations, as chiefs have said governments must not skirt their duty to consult. All right, joining me now to break down the importance of the Premier's meeting is political expert Keith Leslie. Keith, thank you very much for joining us tonight. And top of the agenda for this three-day meeting in Muskoka has to be tariffs and trade.
Tariffs and trade and Donald Trump. Of course it is. I mean, Donald Trump set that August 1st deadline. Remember, we had a July 21st one originally that Canada wanted to deal with the United States. Trump has made it August 1st, and that's when a 35% tariff will impose on all Canadian imports to the U.S. if there's no deal by then. So that's what the premiers are looking for here on Tuesday when Prime Minister Carney joins them, is an update on those trade talks with the United States.
Now, we've been talking a while now about provincial trade, and Ford has signed MOUs with several provinces. How far away are we from seeing the benefits of that?
Well, apparently some of it's going to start kicking in quite soon, especially with the alcohol sales and other things that they're trying to, lower these interprovincial barriers. That's all about it. The talk today is going to be how to get one, or this week rather, is going to be about how to get one Canadian economy, not 13 individual ones, and how to get those economies focused on the major, infrastructure and natural resource projects. And that means, pipelines and mines, as you mentioned in the introduction. They've got to focus on getting Canada's economy going on its own without relying on the big exports to the U.S. And so trade, interprovincial trade in particular, is going to be as important in this talks as the trade with the United States and the trade with the rest of the world, which is, of course, our new marketplace.
Now, as you mentioned on Tuesday, the premiers will be meeting with Prime Minister Mark Carney, and this is timely because the trade talks with the U.S. are expected to intensify. What do you think Carney will say to the premiers at this meeting in Muskoka?
I think he's going to tell them that, his strategy is, in his mind, working, that, conceding to knock off the digital sales tax, for example, or the digital services tax. That was, he took a lot of criticism for that, but I don't think that it's a bad move. I think he's going to tell the premiers, and the premiers for the most part are supporting him and saying this, that, make whatever concessions you need to make. You handle the negotiations right now and just get us that deal by August the 1st so that we don't have those tariffs. It seems, and Carney is even conceding himself, that there's going to be a deal. No matter what deal we get with the United States, there'll be some level of tariffs in it. So they hope to get it down to about 10% instead of that 35%. But it's all going to be, Carney's job to convince the premiers that he's on the right track. And he is taking input from the premiers, and that seems to be what's helping him stay on course with this.
And you're right, the timing of this meeting is also important because of that deadline of August 1st for Carney and Trump to reach a trade deal. Now, each premier will likely have their own agenda or requests. What do you think Ford will be asking Carney for?
Well, Ford wants, again, that focus on the automotive sector being protected and on steel and aluminum tariffs in particular. Steel, of course, most of all for the Hamilton area. This is going to be his key focus, but he's also focused on the interprovincial trade barriers, as we know. He's really strong on getting these memorandum of understandings with all the other provinces. So he's really helping Carney along push with that. And in exchange for that, he wants, Carney to help him get the bill passed that's going to allow them to get, projects going much quicker, the big projects, especially the mining around the Ring of Fire. So they're looking for trade-offs between the feds and the province, and I think Ford in particular is in a good position here to get some help from Carney in some of these big projects.
All right, Keith, thank you very much. I appreciate your time. All the best.
Thanks for having me.